Simplify the complex fraction 6 minus 1 over x minus 15 over x squared over 4 plus 4 over x minus 3 over x squared. And the way we'll simplify this complex fraction is we will determine a least common denominator and then multiply the top and the bottom of this fraction by that least common denominator. So I look at all my individual smaller denominators. I have x squared, and the least common denominator of those four individual denominators will be x squared. So we're going to multiply the whole top of this complex fraction and the whole bottom of this complex fraction by the least common denominator, which is x squared. So we're going to multiply, basically we're going to multiply this fraction by x squared over x squared, which means we're going to end up using the distributive property, and we're going to take x squared times all three terms up top, and we're going to take x squared times all three terms in the bottom. So writing that out, we're going to have 6 times x squared minus 1 over x times x squared minus 15 over x squared times x squared up top. And the bottom, again taking every term in the bottom times x squared, we'll have a 4 times x squared, a positive 4 over x times x squared, and negative 3 over x squared times x squared. So let's see what happens when we multiply this out. Up top, 6 times x squared is 6x squared. The negative 1 over x times x squared, a factor of x will divide out a factor of x, and we're left with negative x. And our last term, the x squareds, will divide out, and we're left with a negative 15. On the bottom, same thing's going to happen. 4 times x squared is 4x squared. What happens with our middle term? Positive 4 over x times x squared. The factor of x's divide out. We're left with a positive 4x. And at the end, our 2x squared factors cancel each other out, and we're left with a negative 3. One other thing we need to check, can this be factored and simplified, or can this fraction be put in Low's terms? And that answer is yes. The numerator, 6x squared minus x minus 15, can be factored as 3x minus 5 times 2x plus 3, and the denominator can be factored as 2x minus 1 times 2x plus 3. So as you can see, we do end up with a common factor, which we will divide those out, and we are left with 3x minus 5 over 2x minus 1. So there is our final answer, 3x minus 5 over 2x minus 1.